Show more 8:20 a.m. The UFC world just exploded, and nobody saw it coming. In the span of just a few days, 3 stories dropped that sent shockwaves through the entire MMA community. Justin Gaethje, one of the most respected fighters on the roster, made a demand so bold that fans couldn't stop talking about it. Dana White, never one to hold back, went on a full-on verbal rampage against a fighter named Josh Hokit, and what he said was brutal. And then, quietly building in the background, one of the most anticipated middleweight matchups in years is finally coming together: Dricus Du Plessis versus Kamaru Usman. 3 stories, all massive, all happening at once. So let's break it all down, because trust me, you don't want to miss a single piece of this. Let's start with Justin Gaethje, because this one genuinely surprised people. Now, if you know anything about Gaethje, you know he doesn't play games. The man is not a political fighter. He doesn't do media stunts. He doesn't beg for fights or throw tantrums on social media. He shows up, he throws bombs, and he lets his fists do the talking. That's always been his identity. Raw, real, unfiltered. So when Gaethje stepped forward and made a very specific, very direct demand to the UFC, people stopped and listened. Here's the context. Gaethje has had one of the most fascinating careers in recent UFC history. He came in swinging, lost some brutal fights, rebuilt himself, became a champion in one of the most dramatic moments the UFC has ever seen, that flying knee against Charles Oliveira at UFC 274, and then kept fighting at the highest level. He's not young anymore in MMA terms, but he's still dangerous, still elite, still a top 5 lightweight in the world without question. But Gaethje is at a crossroads right now, and he knows it. Fighters at his level, at his age, they can't afford to take filler fights. Every fight matters. Every fight costs something: your body, your brain, your time. And Gaethje has given this sport everything. He has bled and suffered and entertained in ways that very few fighters ever have. So what did he demand? He wants a title shot. Or, at the very minimum, a fight that makes sense for where he is in the division. Not a gatekeeper. Not a stepping stone opponent. A real fight. A meaningful fight. The kind of fight that either gets him back to the championship or at least honors the level he's competed at. And the way he said it, that's what got people talking. It wasn't a quiet statement in an interview. It was direct. It was pointed. It felt like a man who has earned the right to make demands and is finally choosing to use that right. Now, some people heard this and immediately respected it. Here's a guy who has never dodged anyone, who fought Khabib Nurmagomedov, who fought Tony Ferguson, who fought Dustin Poirier twice, who fought Charles Oliveira for the belt, who fought Islam Makhachev. This man has walked into the fire over and over again. If anyone in that lightweight division has earned the right to pick his spot and make demands, it's Justin Gaethje. But others pushed back, because the lightweight division right now is stacked. Islam Makhachev is dominant at the top. There are hungry contenders coming up from everywhere. And the UFC doesn't love fighters who publicly pressure them. They prefer to be the ones holding all the cards. So the question becomes, will the UFC listen? Will they give Gaethje what he's asking for? Or will they do what they sometimes do, and just wait him out, let him sit, and eventually either force his hand or move on? This situation is still unfolding. But what makes it so compelling is the person at the center of it. This isn't some mid-card fighter complaining about bookings. This is Justin Gaethje, one of the most beloved fighters in sport, one of the greatest entertainers the lightweight division has ever produced. And he's telling the UFC, clearly and confidently, that he deserves more than what's being offered. The ball is in the UFC's court, and the whole MMA world is watching to see how they respond. Now, let's talk about Dana White and Josh Hokit, because this one was something else entirely. If you're not familiar with Josh Hokit, that's kind of the point. Hokit is a heavyweight fighter who appeared on Dana White's Contender Series, which, if you don't know, is a show where up-and-coming fighters try to impress Dana White enough to earn a UFC contract. It's a platform, a launching pad. For a lot of fighters, it's the biggest moment of their career. And Hokit made the most of it. At least inside the octagon. He went out there and performed. He fought. He competed. He did what you're supposed to do on that show. But then, and this is where things went sideways, he didn't get the contract. And that happens. Not every fighter who wins on Contender Series gets signed. Dana White watches every single fight on that show personally, and he makes the calls based on what he sees. The entertainment value, the marketability, the potential. Sometimes a fighter wins, but Dana just doesn't see the star power. It's a business decision as much as it is a sports decision. But what happened after Hokit didn't get signed is what set everything on fire. Hokit went public. He spoke out. He expressed his frustration and disappointment in a way that clearly rubbed Dana White the wrong way. And Dana, being Dana, did not let it go. Dana White's response was sharp.
It was direct.
It was the kind of thing that makes you sit back and go, okay, so that's how this works. Dana essentially called out Hokit for complaining publicly, making it very clear that he was not impressed with the reaction. Dana has always operated with a very specific philosophy. Earn your spot. Don't whine. Prove yourself. And in his eyes, Hokit broke that unspoken rule. What Dana said about Hokit wasn't kind. It wasn't diplomatic. It was the kind of candid, blunt commentary that Dana is famous or infamous for. He made it very clear what he thought of Hokit's decision to speak out, and he drew a very firm line about what kind of attitude he welcomes in the UFC and what kind he doesn't. Now, this opens up a bigger conversation that the MMA community has been having for years. Because on one hand, Dana White runs one of the most successful sports organizations in the world. His instincts are sharp. He built this thing from almost nothing. And when he says someone doesn't have what it takes, he's often right. But on the other hand, fighters are human beings. They train for years. They sacrifice everything. They get one shot on a show like Contender Series, and if it doesn't go the way they hoped, are they not allowed to feel something? Are they not allowed to say something? The power dynamic in the UFC has always been heavily tilted toward the organization and away from the fighters. Fighters don't have a union. They don't have the same protections that athletes in other major sports leagues have. And when Dana White publicly criticizes a fighter for speaking up about feeling overlooked, it sends a message to every fighter on the roster: fall in line or face consequences. Some people think Dana was right. Hokit should have kept his head down, gone back to the regional circuit, kept winning, and earned his way back. That's how the game is played. Others think Dana crossed the line, publicly slamming a young fighter who is simply expressing his frustration. A fighter who has no real platform or power feels like punching down. Either way, the exchange made headlines. And it reminded everyone of something very simple. In the UFC, there is one man at the top, and crossing him, even accidentally, even emotionally, can have real consequences for your career. Josh Hokit's journey in the UFC may have taken a massive hit because of how this played out. And that's a sobering reality in a sport where the path to the top is already brutally difficult. Now let's get to the matchup that has the entire middleweight division buzzing: Dricus Du Plessis versus Kamaru Usman. To understand why this fight matters so much, you have to understand the two men involved. Because this isn't just a title fight. This is a clash of eras, a clash of identities. And depending on how it plays out, it could reshape the entire middleweight landscape for years to come. Let's start with Dricus Du Plessis, the man they call Still Knocks, the South African fighter who came into the UFC and just refused to lose. He's not the most technically polished fighter you'll ever watch. He's not slick in the way some champions are slick. But he has something that you genuinely cannot teach: an unbreakable will, and a chin that seems to be made of something otherworldly. Du Plessis won the middleweight title by beating Sean Strickland in a fight that most people didn't expect him to win. And then he defended it against Israel Adesanya in a rematch that was even more dramatic than the first meeting. 2 times his back was against the wall. 2 times he found a way. That's the kind of fighter Dricus is. He lives in the fire and somehow keeps walking forward. And he's young. He's still developing. There's a very real argument that the best version of Dricus Du Plessis hasn't even shown up yet. That's a terrifying thought for the rest of the division. Now, Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian nightmare, the man who was for several years considered the pound-for-pound best fighter on the planet. At his peak, Usman was nearly untouchable. His wrestling was elite. His cardio was unreal. His ability to control a fight, to wear opponents down, to find the finish when he needed it. All of it was operating at the highest possible level. He defended the welterweight title 6 times. 6 times. That's a dynasty. That's a legacy. That's a fighter who proved himself against everyone they put in front of him. Gilbert Burns, Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington, Leon Edwards. Again and again, Usman showed up when it mattered. But then he moved to middleweight. And the question that everyone has been asking is, which version of Kamaru Usman shows up in that division? Because the version that lost to Leon Edwards, not once, but twice, was a step slower, a step behind. Something had shifted. Whether it was age, whether it was the accumulation of wars, or whether it was just Edwards figuring him out, the aura of invincibility had faded. Moving to middleweight was meant to be a reset, a fresh start, a chance for Usman to remind the world why he was considered the best for so long. And now he's facing Dricus Du Plessis for the middleweight championship. Think about what's at stake here. If Usman wins, he becomes a 2-division champion, joining an incredibly exclusive club. He silences every doubt about his decline. He writes one of the greatest comeback stories in combat sports history. He reminds the world exactly who Kamaru Usman is. If Du Plessis wins, he cements himself as a legitimate generational talent. Beating Usman, the version of Usman who is pound for pound #1, that's the resume-defining victory. That's the kind of win that makes people stop debating whether you belong at the top and start asking how long you'll stay there. The styles here are fascinating to think about. Usman's wrestling and pressure against Du Plessis's chaotic, unpredictable striking and heart. Usman's experience and IQ against Du Plessis's youth and momentum. This isn't a fight where you can easily predict a winner and feel confident about it. Both men have pathways to victory. Both men have tools that could be the difference. And that's exactly why it has people so excited. The middleweight division has been one of the most entertaining divisions in the UFC for the last several years. Adesanya's long reign, Strickland's shocking title run, Du Plessis's rise, and now Usman stepping into the mix. It keeps evolving. It keeps throwing surprises at us. And this fight feels like the next major chapter. So let's zoom out and look at all 3 of these stories together. Because when you put them side by side, there's actually a common thread running through all of them. It's about power. Who has it? Who's asking for it? And who's willing to fight for it? Justin Gaethje is a fighter demanding that his career be treated with the respect it has earned. He's not just asking for a fight, he's asserting his value. In a sport where fighters are often treated as replaceable assets, Gaethje is planting a flag and saying, I matter here, and I'm not going to be ignored. Josh Hokit is a fighter who didn't have that power yet, who tried to speak up in a world where speaking up can cost you everything. And Dana White's response was a reminder of just how lopsided that power structure really is. Whether you think Dana was right or wrong, the message was unmistakable. In this game, there are rules, and breaking them, even emotionally, has consequences. And then Dricus Du Plessis and Kamaru Usman, 2 fighters at different points in their careers, both reaching for the same prize, both carrying the weight of everything they've built. This is a fight about legacy, about whether the old guard can reclaim what it lost, or whether the new generation is truly here to stay. These aren't just MMA stories. These are human stories. Stories about ambition and power, and what it costs to chase something with everything you have. And that's what makes this sport so impossible to look away from. Because inside those stories, inside those fights and those demands and those moments of anger or glory, there are real human beings. People who have given years of their lives to be at this level. People who bleed and suffer and sacrifice and push themselves further than most of us can even imagine. Justin Gaethje wants one more shot at greatness. Kamaru Usman wants to rewrite the end of his story. Dricus Du Plessis wants to prove that his reign is just beginning. And Josh Hokit, wherever he goes from here, is a reminder that for every fighter who makes it to the top of this mountain, there are dozens who came close, gave everything, and still walked away without the contract, without the belt, without the recognition they believed they deserved. The UFC world never stops moving. There's always another fight, always another story, always another moment that makes you lean forward and ask, wait, What just happened?
And right now,
It's happening on all fronts at once. Gaethje is making noise. Dana is firing back. And two warriors are about to step into the cage to settle something that words never could.
stay locked in.
Because this is only the beginning.